Hey, howdy hey, and welcome back to Emily's Adventures in Horrorland. And Braggett's Adventures, of course. Hello. And Killjoy's Adventures. Are you okay, Killjoy? How you doing?
So you're finally covering The Exorcist. Do tell, is this one getting a 7 rating or a 4 from you?
Oh, there's no need to be grumpy, sis. Just because you're barely needed for this one. This review is going to go great. I can feel it. Yeah, well, it has been scripted and re-scripted several times over the last few years. Originally, it was just going to be a 6-minute thing back when my reviews were as long as that, and now it's going to be just as long as it needs to be, I suppose. You know, sometimes I worry about doing lengthy reviews like this. I worry that people could just watch these instead of the film itself, you know? Well, I'm sure everyone's seen The Exorcist by now. Yeah, hopefully. Today's horror icon is often called the scariest movie of all time, and yet it's surprisingly divisive even today. Some people are chilled to the bone watching it, others find it hilarious. It gets special screenings in small, middle-of-nowhere type movie theatres come Halloween night. It has a whole bunch of different cuts, from the never-before-seen version to the full director's cut and God knows what else. Judging by the number of times the demon's face is superimposed onto various parts of the film, the one I'm reviewing is the never-before-seen version, clocking in at 2 hours and 13 minutes. There's a lot of interesting trivia surrounding this film's making and the true story on which it was based. So let's get on our exorcising gloves and...
What are you talking about? Exorcising gloves? You're a fucking idiot.
So grab some prayer beads because it's time to review The Exorcist. Thank you. Didn't there used to be pictures here? Our story begins in northern Iraq. Here we have a bunch of guys with picks and hammers, probably for the purposes of excavating.
We want not slow archaeology, we want speed archaeology. You got 15 minutes to find the city. All right. Let's go. Bam, 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 bam. Get the diggers in. What the fuck? Get that skull out the way. Bam, bam, bam.
Finally, somebody breaks out the brushes to expose this little demonic head thing, and it's handed to Father Lancaster Merrin, who we'll be seeing again later. We learn that the priest has been here for a while, but has to leave suddenly on some important undisclosed business. Whew, Jesus. Somebody should invent traffic lights. Finally, he stands before a terrible-looking statue, which makes an abominable noise and has the power to make doggos fight. Now, this beginning is pretty foreboding. It places us in Father Merrin's shoes, a stranger in a strange land, and it hints at an ancient, unknowable evil in the form of a demon with a snake for a penis. I mean, who wouldn't be scared by that? Now we're in Georgetown, which is in... Don't tell me, let me guess. Wyoming? Damn it! A woman in her own house hears strange noises and puts on her peachy dressing gown to investigate. Ah, the 70s. But not before checking on her daughter. If you don't have billowing white curtains in a horror movie, is there really any wind at all? The next morning, the woman, Chris McNeil, comes downstairs and complains of rats running around in the attic to Carl, one of the people who helps around the house. I don't think it's rats. She then heads out to work. Turns out she's an actress! Yay, isn't that swell? There's a confusing shot where I think we're following this dude, but it turns out, oh, no, guy in black.
Okay, cut. That's a wrap.
That's a wrap?
You did one take! As Chris walks home, we spot some trick-or-treaters running around, suggesting it might be Halloween, and we are graced with the sound of tubular bells.
There's not a day in my life that I don't feel like a fraud. I mean, priests, doctors, lawyers, I've talked to them all. I don't know anyone who is.
And with the roar of a plane, it is gone again. My mother was a big fan of Mike Oldfield, so I'm already familiar with his works.
Desolation, devastation. What a mess we made when it all went wrong.
Back at home, Chris's daughter Reagan is there to give her a peck on the cheek and talk about her day.
Me and Sharon played a game in the backyard.
You did.
And we had a picnic down by the river. You should have seen this man came along on this beautiful gray horse.
Really? What
Wasn't
kind?
he pretty?
Beautiful. The mare, gelding?
I think it was a gelding.
Good to see there's a nice mother-daughter relationship there, and Linda Blair is genuinely very sweet in this role. At first. Well, it works to the film's advantage, makes it more of a contrast later. It feels like we've been creeping up on Father Damien Karras all this time. Odd. This is the second time a priest has been unnerved by eyeballs so far. We get a picture of Damien Karras as he enters his mother's place. Former boxer, finds the dog collar a bit much, literally and figuratively, as we'll find out. He also speaks to his mother in Greek, but in case you don't recognize Greek, the music on the radio is a bit of a clue. He gently floats the idea of taking her to a hospital where she can be cared for a bit better, but she doesn't want to leave.
This is my house, and I'm not going no place.
I wonder what will happen.
Back with Chris and her daughter Reagan, and oh look, there just happens to be a Ouija board in the basement. The two of them talk to a mysterious figure known as Captain Howdy, which is only one possible explanation for why Reagan got possessed in the first place. It's left ambiguous for the viewer who this character is and what drew him here.
Yes, because of course a king of demons, the bearer of storms and drought, is going to be summoned by a cardboard tabletop game.
Stranger things have happened. Remember how Lilac came into our lives? We just watched a dark web video one day, and suddenly there it was.
We didn't watch anything. She did. And I can't stand it.
Maybe you should carry on. Okay. Father Karras meets with another priest called Tom. I don't know his surname. He's scared for his mother and feels like he makes a poor priest.
I think I've lost my faith, Tom.
This is a theme we will be coming back to later. Meanwhile, Chris tries unsuccessfully to get Reagan's father on the line for her birthday. That night, we get the first signs of trouble as the rats are rattling around in the attic, and it just can't wait until tomorrow.
That's nice.
That's actually a really great jump scare. Poor Mary. In the next scene, we see Reagan having a bunch of tests done and, flash frame of something horrible.
Can you feel this?
I don't feel anything.
She's starting to show signs of short attention span, irritability, and other behaviors. It's almost like the demon is playing with its new host, like an imp piloting a blimp.
Good analogy, dipshit.
Thanks. Thank you. The doc believes it's a nervous disorder and prescribes her Ritalin. Just like that.
Nobody knows the cause of hyperkinetic behavior in a child. The Ritalin seems to work to relieve the condition. As to how or why, we really don't know.
Oh, that's reassuring. Oh, I wish he was my doctor.
She advised me to keep my fingers away from her. Goddamn cunt.
Oh, Reagan knows the C word. Meanwhile, Father Karras' uncle advocates for putting his mother in a psychiatric hospital for her own good. He also lays on the guilt pretty thick.
You know, it's funny. If you wasn't a priest, you'd be famous psychiatrist now, Park Avenue. Your mother, she'd be living in a penthouse instead of the...
You are a piece of work. The media doesn't paint a very nice picture of mental health facilities, does it? I saw the movie Unsane a while ago, and I am still reeling from that. They would never put male and female patients in the same ward, never mind strap them to their beds. Good night, best of luck. Jesus Christ.
Why are you bringing up mental health? Stalker Month is the designated period for you to digress into non-horror topics.
But this movie has a lot to do with mental health. There's the Ritalin thing, and Damien is into psychiatry. Speaking of which... Whoa there, easy on the bag, we just got it restuffed. Meanwhile, there's a party going on at the McNeil place, and the director of Chris's latest film is going around being a tremendous racist.
Bloody damn butchering Nazi pig.
He'll get what's coming to him. Wait, that's our friend Burke from earlier?
Burke just comes around here a lot because, well, he's lonely. Don't got nothing to do.
No, I heard differently.
What does she see in him? Chris asks about Damien, whose mother has just passed away in a care home she hated. Time for a sing-along.
Boy, that's my sweet home. Sweet home.
idea of heaven is a solid white nightclub with me as the headliner for all eternity, and they love me.
Easy there, Father Ted.
His name's Father Dyer, actually. There's a lot of fathers in this, minus Reagan's actual biological father. But you know, 4 out of 5 ain't bad.
Hey, I think we've got a guest.
You're gonna die up there.
That'd stop anyone playing the piano. Poor girlie.
It's just like the doctor said. It's nerves, and that's all. Okay? You just take your pills and you'll be fine, really.
Sure, sure. But can pills stop a bed doing this? Meanwhile, Karras is having nightmares about his mother. Oh, there's that face again. The nightmare is also significant because it involves a flight of stairs.
Symptom of a type of disturbance in the chemical electrical activity of the brain. It's rare, but it does cause bizarre hallucinations.
Poor Chris is at her wit's end. Oh, not quite yet, she's not.
Mrs. McNeil, the problem with your daughter is not her bed. It's her brain.
I love that the doctor is not at all astonished by the bed shaking. He reckons it's a lesion in her brain now, so... More like legion in her brain.
Why don't you both go and drink piss, you fucking scurvy potato-faced bastards?
A lesion in her brain, which is going to require more treatment. We're looking at a very adult fear of knowing something is wrong with one's child and having to trust the doctor's best guess. I mean, they seem to be systematically ruling out other things, but for some reason they go for the big scary arteriogram before they send Reagan to a psychiatrist. Look at this fucking thing! Look! It's horrific! Well, yes! These scenes are meant to tell the audience what a horror it is to let a doctor poke and prod at someone you love while you stand by helplessly. But they find Reagan's brain has no sign of lesions.
Mother, please! Please, take it down! It's burning!
Yikes, those are some spasms.
Keep away! The sour's mine!
Fuck me!
This has some extra bits and pieces I haven't seen in other cuts of the film.
Pathological states can induce abnormal strength, accelerated motor performance.
Accelerated motor function, my ass. I love the natural lighting here, though. Makes Chris look all the more exhausted. What the hell is that? What is it doing? Whew, thank God we live in 2018 with more sophisticated and less terrifying medical equipment. I hope.
At least the McNeil family can afford these tests. You'd be lucky to get an MRI in this economy.
Finally, they get to the stage where they consider psychiatry. Now we're seeing more signs that the house itself is being fucked with. Cold temperature in Reagan's room, lights flickering, and there's that face again. Burke Dennings, the racist director who was babysitting Reagan, is revealed to have died falling down some stairs. This rather upsets Chris, who's having a rough day as it is. Spider walk incoming. There it is! Oh, that looks bloody. Next scene, we have Reagan talking to a shrink in her mother's own words.
Who are you?
At this point, you're starting to get the idea. I'd like to speak more generally about the film now and the impact it had. For most people, this is the movie about demonic possession. It's worth mentioning that the 1971 book upon which it was based was a bestseller at the time, and it in turn was based on a real-life possession and exorcism from 1949.
Alleged possession. The story was barely fact-checked and is as much based on true events as the supernatural inhabitants of the Amityville house.
But nonetheless, a fascinating story. It sounds like this Roland Doe boy really gave the priests a run for their money. And how you perceive the Roland Doe case depends on your profession. Author Mark Opsinick wrote, "To psychiatrists, he suffered from mental illness. To priests, this was a case of demonic possession. And at this intersection, we find the fictional Damien Karras." Exactly. I think Karras is the real protagonist of The Exorcist. His faith is tested, he faces a moral quandary, and in the end, he does what he thinks is right. The whole notion of the book and film is that whether or not you believe in God, demons can happen to anybody, and only belief will deliver you to salvation. It's an interesting message, especially now as more people are becoming post-religious, shall we say? What makes The Exorcist so extraordinary in my view is that throughout the movie, Regan, and by extension Pazuzu, is confined to a little girl's bedroom. This demon barely affects anything, but has chosen the body of a 12-year-old girl to make the whole world lose hope. What makes this so effective? Well, I think a lot of it has to do with the film's pacing. The cinematography isn't winning any awards for being experimental, but this actually works to the film's advantage because it grounds the whole thing in reality. We are right there with Regan and her family as they go through this horrible experience. Maybe it's a 70s thing, I don't know. While Damien Karras is out running, he is approached by a William F. Kinderman who works in homicide. He tells Damien that he looks like a boxer, which, okay, we get it. They discuss the recent desecration in the church and what could have caused it. Then they talk about the death of Burke Dennings.
Burke Dennings, good father, was found at the bottom of those steps leading to M Street with his head turned completely around.
What a pain in the neck. Sorry. Remember this character because he's going to turn up in The Exorcist 3, which is a marvelous film as well.
Oh, wait. You like movies?
Ooh, my kind of man.
It looks like the type of disorder that's rarely ever seen anymore, except in primitive cultures. We call it somnambuliform possession.
This is actually the closest these doctors have got to the truth, but it still seems inadequate to Chris. She reckons they're, clutching at straws.
Why are you picking on the specifics of diagnostics in a film which features actual demonic possession? Those doctors are never going to get it right no matter how much they guess. That is the point. That is why this film is scary, because Regan's affliction is beyond the bounds of modern medicine. Just look at me. I'm possessed by something, and we have yet to find a treatment that's worked.
But we will, Killjoy, we will. I promise. Moving on. Now this scene is interesting to me. Look at how Chris is outnumbered. Look how small she looks. In her frustration, she throws out some terms that are not very PC.
I am not going to lock her up in some goddamn asylum. You're telling me that I should take my daughter to a witch doctor?
Mind you, she isn't one to mince words generally.
We have to start looking for a shrink.
Maybe that's why she's friends with Burke Dennings. The doctors suggest that if Regan did believe she was possessed, she might believe in the power of an exorcism and be cured, like a psychosomatic thing. Later, Kinderman goes to have another look at those flights of stairs, then pops in to talk to Chris. He suggests that Burke Dennings must have been killed by a very powerful man, not by accident. Of course, we know it was Regan when she was supposed to be asleep. Maybe the doctors gave her some other super stimulant they don't know the function of. Chris's expression makes it clear she's considering whether or not Regan was responsible. And a zoom out. I don't see those often.
Look, he wouldn't have any reason in the world to go up to her room.
Oh, I know.
Well, if Burke went with purpose to a room where he knew a teenaged girl would be alone and heavily sedated, then he's probably a creep and deserved everything he got. Justice.
For my daughter, could you please give an autograph?
And what's your name?
I lied. It's for me.
This man is my spirit animal. Except I don't really care about autographs. Oh, here comes that scene. Here we go.
Jesus, fuck you! Jesus, fuck you! Fuck you!
Made me do a spit take on the first viewing? Definitely. Oh Christ, I forgot about the furniture moving. I know, more pressing matters, but, you know, it's still of note.
You know what she did? Your canting daughter?
I really love Mercedes McCambridge's voice in this, and I love that they took the time to arrive at the full horror, well not quite full, of telekinesis, masturbating with a crucifix, heads turning around. That pretty much proves that Regan about snapped Burke's head off. Chris knows an exorcism is in order. Now I wonder who she's going to ask to perform it. Yes, it's that intensely dark and handsome Father Damien Karras. They talk for a bit about priesthood, and she tries to casually slip in the innocuous topic of exorcism.
And, how do you go about getting an exorcism?
I beg your pardon?
Well, that didn't work. He gives it to her pretty straight that nobody does them anymore, but her grief sufficiently moves him to see Regan. But he must see her as a psychiatrist, for reasons. Jesus, it's a wonder he can stand to be in that room, even with everything tied down.
If you're the devil, why not make the straps disappear?
That's much too vulgar a display of power, Karras.
Sounds like something Satan would say. Or God. Just putting that out there. Jesus did say, "Thou shalt not put the Lord thy God to the test," or something. I am told that the actor wasn't warned about that. His reaction to the old pea soup did seem genuine. And by the way, Reagan's transformation over time is absolutely hideous. This is physical corruption on the level of some body horror films that wouldn't come out for another decade. We're both afraid of Reagan and sorry for her. Who did the physical effects for this film, by the way?
Hey, Dick Smith, my man.
Karras is still erring on the side of cynicism, but Reagan mentioning his dead mother certainly makes him think. Maybe this is what rekindles the old faith in him upstairs. And them downstairs. More sessions ensue, and he tries to get her to speak in a language Reagan wouldn't know.
Oh, it burns! Oh, it burns! Oh, here's my knife. Oh, sorry.
That's good enough for me. Turns out the water wasn't actually holy, but got her to speak in reversed English.
I think Pazuzu was faking that in order to convince Karras it was a fake possession. How sneaky.
Ah! Phone jump scare. A subsequent visit shows the poor innocent 12-year-old is trapped inside, begging to be freed. Damien finally gets the go-ahead from someone, and they judge Father Merrin, the dude in Iraq at the beginning, to be the best man for the exorcism. An air of mystery surrounds this man, especially when he arrives at the McNeil house.
Yes, here at the 100-minute mark, we get our The Exorcist.
I was hoping for more tubular bells. Instead, we get some background mooing from Reagan.
Would you like some brandy in that, brother?
Well, the doctors say I shouldn't. But thank God, my will is weak.
Oh great, a weak-willed priest. That's what you want to hear. Merrin warns that the demon will unleash a psychological attack upon them and to ignore it. Here we go!
Lord in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come.
Look at this guy, such a badass. All the demons writhing around and spewing on his face barely phases him. Also, whoever tied up Reagan in the first place, they deserve some danger money.
Your mother sucks cocks in hell, Karras.
There's some of that lying, I hope.
Father Karras. Father Karras.
Probably should have rehearsed this, but seriously, that is so impressive. And more pea soup. Possibly even pea and ham. Oh, that's gotta hurt. Now, I may just be going by the version you've never seen, but this exorcism seems to take a very long time, and it's not burdened by a very impressive score or anything. It's just noise. Mercedes McCambridge is bellowing her face off, and it's just remarkable. Apparently, she did things like downing whiskey and swallowing raw eggs to do a number on her voice. That's the kind of dedication to the craft I like to see. Of course, some of this has the potential to come across as ludicrous or slapstick-ish. I think this is where some people derive their amusement from the film.
Faustus, the blood of the martyrs commands you.
Huh, I guess Hannah didn't die in vain after all.
Is it working? Oh no. Oh no! We're gonna need more holy water. They manage to restrain the demon, and Merrin decides to take a break. Here's one of my favorite sentiments from the movie that I mentioned earlier.
Why this grew doesn't make sense. I think the point is to make us despair. To see ourselves as animal and ugly.
Remember that, because it's showing up again in the third movie.
Why do you keep mentioning the third movie?
Because people have requested that I review it. Oh, you don't look very well.
I'm fine, I just... Oh my god.
What is it?
You're not, I have to go.
Kill... Should I go after her, do you think?
No, I think we should finish the review.
Is it just me, or has she been attacking me personally during this one? Not so much the movie, just what I've been saying.
I'm sure it's fine, just carry on.
Okay. Merrin excuses himself to take a pill, and Damien goes to Reagan, who talks to him using his mother's voice. Despicable. Especially after the whole, your mother knits socks in heck line from earlier. Mary decides to continue without him, which is going to be a big mistake. One old man against the unbridled might of Pazuzu. I don't know how it happens, but it happens. All up to Dimmy.
You son of a bitch!
Ah yes, punching. Why didn't anyone else think of that? He actually gets the demon to possess him instead, then, using his last ounce of strength, throws himself through the window, down the steps, and dies just as he is being absolved of his sin by Father Dyer, who was the guy on piano earlier. He swings by later on, just as the McNeils are moving out, which I completely understand. You know how it is, just bad memories. Reagan is cured and all is well. Now can this please end with him and Kinderman going to see a movie?
Had your lunch?
No.
Close enough. Tubular bells? Yay! Wait, there it is. That was weird. So that was The Exorcist. Is it overrated? Absolutely not. I'm sorry that I wasn't around when this first came out. People queued around the block to see it. They shuddered, they fainted, they walked out halfway through. It must have been an absolute cinematic phenomenon. And it's not hard to see why. The Exorcist dared to go in a direction that no other mainstream horror movie had gone before. Maybe Rosemary's Baby. It afflicted an innocent child with an evil so great, so unfathomably terrible, that her mother had to turn to the great pedophilic Catholic Church to save her. Yeah, thank God we don't have to worry about it.
When did you take off the talisman, you stupid motherfucker?
Oh, I don't remember. It felt kind of loose and...
That was the whole point of this protection. If you're not wearing it, you're vulnerable, and I've laid down my life for nothing. How could you? How could you? Don't you realize what you've done?
Killjoy, are you alright?
No!
Hey, calm down. Remember the deep breaths, okay? In. Out. Killjoy. Stop what you're doing.
You think you can kill me with that?
Oh, I can throw this pretty hard. And I did have a gun, but Michael Moore took it off me. Now go through that door. We need to talk.
You're misguided as usual. Doing this is only prolonging the inevitable.
Sounds like something Lilac would say, yeah, but I know what I'm doing.
I'm telling you, don't do this. There's no way you can contain this. Now the talisman is gone.
Oh, of course. You mean this? I left one of the screws loose, just in case. We find a treatment that works. Goodbye, sis. What happened? So, I have a riddle for you. What do you get if you kill a killjoy? What are you talking about? Is she dead? Wait, What? I don't... I had to, Embo, before Lilac took over. She was so miserable. Well, she was always miserable, but I have a feeling things are going to be better for you from now on, and I know that your channel is going to go from strength to strength. I feel it. She was just here. She was just here. Why don't you finish your review? Well, I give this film 9 jam sandwiches out of 10, and I'll see you guys around Halloween. I'll find something black to wear, I guess. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Cheerio.